So
Watson bags the bandana
we can get
and
through this
forwards
today.
it to the crime lab, where forensics isolates smears of DNA. In 1992, however, the stains are insufficient for DNA testing. Meanwhile, the body is sent to the morgue, where it is eventually identified as Deon, a Seguin girl who attended the festival the previous evening. The coroner believes De Leon was first strangled, then suffered a single stab wound, severing a major artery in the victim's neck.
It was like everything done to her was for effect. There was no peripheral injury. Every injury that was done to her was for effect.
Whoever killed Iglina De Leon selected his victim carefully and was precise in his attack. Both signs of a serial killer. Detective Limmer needs to move fast. One of the first things he does, pay a visit to the victim's family.
I already had a feeling that something wasn't right. As a mother, we know.
Patsy De La Garza is a mother with a premonition. When her daughter Iglina didn't come home from the Seguin festival, the uncomfortable feeling first settled in her mind. Throughout the hours that followed, it only got worse.
I quickly called my mom. I said, Mom, I want you to say a prayer for Iglina because she didn't come home last night. And it wasn't like her not to know to find her.
By afternoon, Patsy is at work when her other daughter calls about a report heard on the radio.
There was enough news already in the radio, and she says in the description said Iglina. She told me that. I said, okay, baby, I'll be home.
Detectives eventually find their way to Patsy's front door with the news her daughter is dead, and asking if Patsy has any idea who might have done it. She suggests a couple of Iglina's high school friends.
I can remember a couple of them that I didn't like. They said, Iglina, I don't like you associating talking to these boys. Oh, Mom, they're just my friends. I said, yes, love, I know, but, I just, as a mother.
Detectives check out Iglina's classmates, but can't spot a potential killer in the bunch. Meanwhile, whispers about the murder circulate through Seguin, and fresh leads begin to filter in. Two women share the story of a strange story in the church on the night Iglina was killed, and a gasp they heard emanating from inside the courtyard.
It's commonly referred to as a death rattle. A person makes it's a final gasp for breath or exhaling. I think he was concerned that, this person isn't done. I believe that's when the stabbing to the side of her neck occurred.
The two women claim they got a look at the suspect, male Hispanic in his 20s, with a distinctive haircut.
Actor Steven Seagal, his style, he used to wear his hair with a ponytail, closely cut on the sides and pulled back into a ponytail.
Limmer provides a sketch for the press. The next day, several callers ID the man as a local named Guadalupe Sandoval.
Oh, he was dead right after the guy in the sketch. We did finally get him to come talk with us. He had fresh hair clippings on his shirt, on his collar area. One of the detectives brought up, well, what's with the clippings on your collar? Well, then he had to admit that he did cut it off just that day.
Sandoval's makeover raises further suspicion among detectives, who query their suspect about his activities on the night of the murder. Sandoval claims he attended the fiesta with his girlfriend and was home in bed an hour before Iglina De Leon disappeared. As soon as the interview is over, Limmer seeks to extract a statement from the suspect's girlfriend.
Totally contradicting what he said. She said he wasn't with her, that she didn't see him till small hours of the next morning, and at that time he was all sweaty and nervous and had changed clothes from the clothes she knew he had on earlier. My impression of her was she was as afraid of him as anybody could be. She pretty much indicated that to us that she would not believe it was him that did it, because the way the victim was assaulted, the choking down part, was he had done the same thing to her on several occasions when she resisted his advances sexually, that he would get angry and would choke her down.
Detectives search Sandoval's home and find a collection of martial arts swords. Forensic testing, however, fails to provide any link between Sandoval and the murder. Limmer discusses the case with District Attorney Bud Kirkendall, who believes detectives are on the right track, but still have a few holes to fill.
New Orleans, hey!
At the church, but one of them had picked out the wrong person. Didn't line up, or never identified. They had seen him for seconds in the dark. We just didn't have enough to connect him to the crime.
In the days and weeks that follow, detectives pick through the small town of Seguin, looking for some bit of evidence or another witness who might cinch their case against Sandoval. In the end, they come up with nada, and the case gets dropped into the cold files. Meanwhile, Adelina's family finds its comfort in a higher authority.
I knew it would happen one day because I never gave up that hope. Because of my faith also, that we always have to, have hope.
Hope and faith are good things, especially when leavened with a dose of the Texas Rangers. Law enforcement legend that brings Adelina de Leon's cold case in from the cold. Let's go! You can serve up Master Chef anytime.
This is about teamwork.
Before all new episodes on Wednesdays.
I can't hear you!
I'm expecting fireworks. Master Chef Dynamic Duos. All new Wednesdays on Fox or anytime on Hulu.
Safe like we can.
Perfecting your swing is hard.
Nice shot, Dad. Oh! Safe like we can.
But replacing your windshield doesn't have to be. Go to safelight.com and we can come to you. Sick. Our highly trained techs can replace your windshield where you are, even if that's right in your driveway. Have a good day. I love you. With flexible payment options, get it fixed now and pay later. Only at safelight.com.
Safe like we can. Safe like we can. Woo!
Car breakdowns can wreck your wallet.
I had heat sensor light up on my dashboard. $2,600.
But if you got endurance, you can never pay out of pocket for a car repair again. In my first year with endurance, they covered a $14,000 engine replacement. Right now, you can get $300 off any plan. Plus, $2,000 value is free. All backed by a 30-day money-back guarantee. Call 1-800-827-7037 for a free quote.
Why? Hair cutting. I'm not cutting my hair.
We don't have murders like this. Why this murder struck is
I think my job's messing with me, y'all. Not gonna lie.
true victim. Leal's true victim is 15-year-old Adelina de Leon. Snatched from a community fiesta, her naked body found in a nearby church courtyard. On a Sunday, these people went to church. This happened on a weekend where there's police tape around the church. Those things burn into the memory. 10 years after the case goes cold, Lieutenant Leal meets with Seguin's district attorney, Bud Kirkendall. On the agenda, justice for Adelina and answers for her family.
She suffered this horrible incident. That just stuck with me forever and always will. This is small town America. A girl should be able to, girl or young man should be able to go to a county fair or fiesta without fear.
One outstanding suspect. A local spotted near the church courtyard at the time of the murder. A wannabe black belt named Guadalupe Sandoval.
We knew that something had compelled him to kill once. We didn't know if that would happen.
right means the use of DNA to develop a forensic link between Sandoval and the murder. It is something Leal, as head of the Rangers Cold Case Unit, knows a thing or two about. DNA is to the modern Texas Rangers what the Colt revolver was to their forebears. A bit of technology that gives the lawman a leg up. With this forensic edge in mind, Leal begins to review evidence in the De Leon case.
When you're reviewing a cold case, something was missed the first time. So we don't, in investigating cold cases, ignore any piece of evidence. We look at all of them.
Leal is drawn to a blue bandana. In 1992, it was picked up by a rookie patrol officer. Leal is drawn to a blue bandana. In 1992, it was picked up by a rookie patrol officer who found it hooked on a storm drain about a block from the crime scene. Coupled with the bandana, a lab report indicating the presence of blood of the same type as the victim. Leal is intrigued.
So maybe there's not blood anywhere else on this bandana. Nasal mucus, something else on this bandana that might belong to someone else.
Bandana, along with a box of evidence, is packed up and sent to a long shot at best, but one the Texas Rangers are willing to take. Chad Hanley is a DNA analyst with the Texas Department of Public Safety. He begins his work on the De Leon evidence with a visual once-over, looking for anything that stands out.
There was a discolored area in the center of the bandana. It was a white area, possibly something from nasal mucus or sweat.
With Hanley's coaxing, the ambiguous stain yields a bit of human DNA. Hanley amplifies the sample and immediately notes the genetic profile is male.
Obviously, at that time, you have no idea who it's consistent with until the final profile is generated. Give you something to have some hope with.
The profile is compared to blood taken from Sandoval and provides a genetic match. Hanley then pulls a DNA profile from the human blood found on the bandana.
The opportunity for a lengthy explanation from the suspect as to why his DNA is on a piece of evidence found at a crime scene and the victim's DNA is on this piece of evidence.
Lieutenant Leal takes Hanley's work back into the field, into the streets of Seguin, where a theory of murder begins to take shape.
We're at the corner of Milam and Nolte, which is the corner where the bandana that ultimately became a key piece was located. It was located in a storm drain right here to my left. The church is behind me, and to the right, where the murder scene was located.
Leal knows that the festival had shut down many of Seguin's streets on the night of the murder. The street where the bandana was found would be a logical route for Sandoval to walk to his car. The storm drain, a perfect place to dump a damning piece of evidence.
So the most logical thing that would have happened was whoever committed the murder part to the north would come east, and at the first street that wasn't barricaded would then go north. This is that street.
Leal believes the bandana and its location in relation to the crime scene provide a blueprint for exactly what happened on the night Eglina de Leon was killed. The Texas Ranger presents his case to Bud Kirkendall, and the DA likes what he hears.
This is what we've been looking for. This took a circumstantial case. There was a house of cards and made it into a brick wall.
On June 17th, 2002, Guadalupe Sandoval is arrested for the first-degree murder of Eglina de Leon. For Eglina's family, it's a day they've been anticipating for almost 10 years.
We were happy, so finally, we're going to go through this, trial and see who did it and let him get his, punishment.
Anticipating for almost 10 years.
We were happy, so finally, we're going to go through this, trial and see who did it and let him get his, punishment. I mean, you're going to reap what you sow in life.
At trial, the state's case opens with a simple premise.
Defendant's mucus and the victim's blood. And no possible explanation for that other than that was the defendant's bandana that he tried to get rid of after he killed him.
If the defendant can explain how his DNA and the victim's blood got onto the same bandana, he walks. If not, according to the state, he is a murderer. Detective Maureen Watson was a rookie when she collected the bandana from the edge of a storm drain. She relives that moment for the jury.
My memories of that night were vivid. I had no problem going back 10 years. I can remember that moment like it was frozen in time.
Not all the prosecution witnesses are so easy. The defendant's wife, who was estranged from Sandoval when she cooperated with police in 1992, has now reconciled.
She was very reluctant to testify, and I had to drag it out of her. But for the statements that have been taken by the PD and the Rangers, we wouldn't have gotten it.
Kirkendall reminds Mrs. Sandoval about her statements in 1992, how she described cutting the defendant's ponytail after these sketches hit the press, and how she told police that Sandoval asked her to lie about his whereabouts on the night of the murder.
One of the things he did sometimes was to choke women into submission for sex, and he had done that to her.
Mrs. Sandoval's testimony closes the case. After 3 hours of deliberation, a Seguin jury finds Sandoval guilty of first-degree murder and sentences him to 75 years in prison. For some, justice delayed is indeed justice denied. The decade of freedom Sandoval enjoyed, inherently unfair. Lieutenant Leal has another way of looking at things.
At the time we arrested him, he had established himself with a job. He had 2 children. He had a modest but brick home that he owned, 2 vehicles that he owned. So my question to people is, he got away with this for 10 years. But would you have rather gone to prison when he was a loser and had nothing to lose? Or is it more punishment to go to prison when you gain all these things and know they're gone for the rest of your life because of something you did in 1992?
For the Rangers' new cold case unit, the Sandoval case is their first success, an important notch in the belt. For the family of Iglina de Leon, the investigation provides answers to a question that never should have been asked.
You want it, but then again, you have to relive this thing. But we're doing it also for other victims, other families that have gone through this, and for them to have hope that it'll come to one day.
Ugh.
This is the last place that I haven't been able to gain access to as well. We open it up, of course it's very dark inside, the well is fairly deep. We weren't able to see. I suggested obtaining a flashlight. We saw Mr. Stark lying partially submerged.
I'm watching
Out in my mind that this was homicide.
Cold Case. Oh my god. Should I finish the braid? I couldn't do that. I could make this top bigger. Yay!
He lived in there. It's a small place. You see that this window is open here. That's the kitchen.
On a hill in New Mexico sits an old trailer. Inside it lives an old man.
He's a lonely guy. And a friendly guy. I don't think he actually met anybody that he didn't like.
Very friendly, very open, always wanting to visit and talk.
Ken Hamill and Bob Nelson are Bruce Stark's neighbors and make a point of checking in on the 72-year-old. On the morning of September 11th, Bob Nelson stops by.
Noticed that he wasn't around. Things didn't look right. I searched the area for him, was unable to find him. Alerted my neighbor, Ken Hamill.
Stopped by my place and asked me if I knew where Bruce was. And I told him probably at home. No, I stopped over there, and the camper here was unlocked and didn't find anything.
Nelson and Hamill return to Bruce Stark's camper and begin to walk the land, looking for some trace of their friend.
When we did come down here, we saw all these beer cans laying here. I knew Bruce didn't drink beer, so I told Bob, I said, he had some friends here.
I'm immediately concerned because I found several items that appeared that an altercation had occurred here. Right behind me here on the ground, I found a knife taken out of its case, and I also found a spotting scope lying on the ground that I didn't recognize.
I found his glasses laying by the front door, and they were broke, and also an empty billfold. We found this empty billfold up on top of the refrigerator.
I was concerned that somehow he had been in an altercation here and been assaulted and was lying on the ground somewhere.
A state police officer himself, Nelson puts a
Oh, I need the back mirror.
A more thorough search of the land, however, turns up nothing.
I think both of us thought at that time that Bruce is either dead or somebody taken him and dumped him someplace, but we thought he was dead.
For 3 days, Hamill and Nelson continue to walk the hills around the last frontier, looking for some sign of their friend. In the end, however, Bruce Stark is simply nowhere to be found.
We were the only place left to look. We had searched the entire area, and this was the last place he could possibly be.
5 days after Bruce Stark disappeared, Bob Nelson and Stark's son, Johnny Ray, begin removing planks of wood covering a well just 200 feet from Stark's camper.
The well itself is encased in this wood box, and it was locked with a padlock, and I was unable to gain access. But Johnny explained to me that this box is actually a ruse, and it's able to be removed. And once we removed the box, we were able to get into the interior depths of the well.
The well is some 30 feet deep. Johnny Ray finds a mirror and, using the sun's reflection, throws some light down the dark hole.
When we looked down into the well, we weren't able to see anything. But using the mirror,
I'm from New York.
we were both able to see Bruce down at the bottom of the well and submerged in water.
Bruce Stark is dead, his body draped with rope. The cop in Nelson has a theory as to how his friend got there.
There was no doubt in my mind that this was a homicide, because it was
Generally speaking, yeah, there isn't a lot of crime out here.
Mike Applegate is an officer with the New Mexico State Police. On September 19th, he pulls up to the Last Frontier's place to see and be seen, the Eagle Guest Ranch restaurant.
It's the only place to buy gas. It's the only place that you can go to eat if you want to eat out. It's the only place you can buy groceries. So this is a gathering point, and Mr. Stark made trips here on a regular basis. You're the owner.
Waitresses remember seeing Stark just days before he disappeared. One waitress in particular recalls the old man with two strangers.
We knew that Mr. Stark met with two individuals a day or so prior to his death, and if I'm not mistaken, they might have had dinner together.
Composite sketches of the two men are generated. No one, however, can put a name to either face. Meanwhile, Stark's family tells police about some guns Stark had, now missing from the camper.
Three long guns and two handguns. His son and/or his ex-wife had maintained serial numbers for each of those weapons. Those were given to the investigators, and they were entered into NCIC as stolen.
The federal database, however, turns up nothing, and Bruce Stark's homicide is shuffled into New Mexico's cold files. Meanwhile, investigators wait, wonder, and hope that someone will be foolish enough to use a gun that could connect him to a murder.
In everyone's mind, all the investigators involved in the case knew that at some point the weapon's going to show up, either on a traffic stop if an officer searches a car or something.
That something doesn't happen for 3 years, until a gun turns up in a pawn shop.
Each week, you'll compete to become the same.
I would pick you over anyone else.
I trust you.
God's watching you right now. Pray and let you burn. Listen Tuesdays on Fox and watch anytime on Hulu.
Bill Richardson and Jeff Campbell are investigators for the New Mexico Attorney General.
Of course, one thing I found interesting was the fact that his pants had been pulled down, indicating that perhaps that happened when he was being drugged as well.
In May of 1999, they pick up the 3-year-old evidence file on Bruce Stark and try to make sense of his murder.
Stark case seemed to be one that was perhaps easier to solve than others, largely because Stark lived in a solitary environment.
It was one of the things that was obvious from the get-go with the state police and so forth, that there were several guns missing. Where did those guns go? Was a big question.
5 guns to be exact, all owned by the murder victim, all gone missing from his camper.
These firearms were taken from the property, we assumed, at the time that he was killed. You can always trace guns, unless someone just virtually destroys them.
Campbell and Richardson pull out serial numbers on the weapons and begin cross-checking against national databases.
The first lead we get on the 357 murder was
What? My computer just shut off. All right.